Gentlemen, happy Father's Day and welcome back to MGTOW Money. Today's topic, it seems logical to hate men. Before we get to that, let me sincerely thank the ongoing support from the Patreon investors as usual on this channel. Thank you, Russ, for becoming the latest member of the MGTOW Money army of Patreon supporters. Men, see the video description today of this video. Become a Patreon supporter of this channel now. Let me get to today's topic. It seems logical to hate men. This comes out of a Washington Post, which of course is an American newspaper, op-ed. And oh, by the way, in case you didn't know, the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, as you may or may not know, is the founder of Amazon.com. Anyway, this person, and I emphasize that I barely can call her a person. She's a professor named Susanna Danuta Walters. I'm not going to discuss too much of her op-ed here, but she is a professor of some sort of sexual gender studies, etc. But quoting her, it seems logical to hate men. Quote, "I can't lie. I've always had a soft spot for the radical feminist smackdown for naming the problem in no uncertain terms." Yes, men, I'm not going to get onto this holy jihad that I've warned you about that is ongoing against men. I will just finish up by a couple of her words. I'm going to quote here. She's talking to men here. She says, quote, "Lean out so we can actually just stand up without being beaten down. Pledge to vote for feminist women only. Don't run for office. Don't be in charge of anything. Step away from the power. We got this. And please know that your crocodile tears won't be wiped away by us anymore. We have every right to hate you. You've done us wrong because patriarchy. It is long past time to play hard for team feminism and win." Yes, men, in light of Father's Day, I thought that was quite appropriate. And I would also reference you. And by the way, check the video description. I'll include a link to this op-ed and you can read it for yourself and see if I'm exaggerating here. But furthermore, I would encourage you, take a look at the slide that I'm including from Good Morning Britain about should we ban Father's Day? Well, of course, right? I mean, shouldn't we? So despite that we're running now into literally skyrocketing suicide rates, especially among teenage males, and just because we're seeing, again, this increasing number of young men, not just in the United States, but I was just reading an Australian article, a medical study regarding the drugging of young boys in schools, regarding what I consider many times as fictitious description of them being ADHD. Again, significant percentages of young men now, evidently throughout the Western world, being prescribed these ridiculous drugs. This war on boys and young men is getting out of control, and I've warned you men about this before. And I've done videos in the past. Again, I'll include a couple of links, the curse of single motherhood. Furthermore, I've made some very specific objective recommendations relative to how men, I believe, should handle themselves in the workplace relative to men in today's society, because I do think that you should be very, very cautious, as Vice President Pence in the United States has already advised in terms of how he conducts himself. But let's leave all that aside. Specifically, I want to talk about today, in light of Father's Day, I want to give some ideas and some advice for young fathers. Now, although I am not a father, although I do not have any young boys, etc., I want to provide some ideas, some thoughts for young fathers and or just young men that are in teens and 20s. And I know that some of you are out there. I hope you will take this in very constructive, positive ways. Because men, speaking as an older man, a man who's well past middle age, you can have a great life, and if you'll just simply get a few things right from the very beginning. One, you need to get physically fit. I'm not talking about being a bodybuilder. I'm not talking about being Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm just talking about some degree of relative physical fitness, and specifically also need to learn a self-defense. You need to learn physical self-defense. Let me put it in simple terms for you, men. You need to learn how to fight. Yeah, you need to learn how to physically fight. You need to feel like that, look, if this turns into a physical fight, you can handle it. I didn't say you're going to win. You might lose. But the point is that you can be there and you are not going to be bullied. You need to improve yourself physically, because I virtually guarantee you improve your body, you will improve your mind. You toughen that body, you're going to toughen your mind. You're not going to be picked on. You can be strong and you can be independent and you can handle whatever comes at you. This is a really important trait that's going to serve you well today, as well as 1 year, 2 year, 20 years in the future. Again, get physically strong, learn a physical self-defense. 2, teach your son or yourself the basics of money. No, I'm not talking about the Austrian theory, the business cycle, or what does fiat money mean, etc. Men, I'm just talking about the very, very basics. By the way, I'll include a link in the video description today with a children's book that's very good. It's written by Robert Kiyosaki and his publishing group that I think is really excellent for money tips on helping children learn. Specifically, you just need to teach them a couple of basic things. 1, just to understand the importance of savings. Everything starts with savings, men. If they can just learn, if they can just spend a little bit less than they make, a little bit less than their allowance, their income, whatever they've got, that can be the first very baby step to moving them forward, because the next concept they need to understand, and I'll admit, it took me to my late 20s to understand this, is compound interest. Yes, I understood it from an abstract standpoint and from a mathematical standpoint, but again, I was so ignorant about money, I didn't understand its real impact on my life. And that's specifically what I'm talking about. You look at a compounding table, you teach children exactly what it means to look at a compounding table in terms of how their savings can translate into that compounding table. How with the mathematical certainty, if X, Y, and Z happens, they'll end up with a huge amount of money potentially, again, with correct savings and with a certain yield on their money over a certain period of time. Next, children need to learn the importance of buying assets, not liabilities. They need to understand that assets are putting money. When they acquire an asset, it's putting money in their pocket while they sleep. Things are so much easier today for young children to get started relative to investing with these various Robinhood and Stash and all these other types of accounts where you can buy fractional shares of stock, etc. They just need to understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Again, very basic concepts. Assets being something that feeds you, liability something that eat you. Again, a liability, something that's going to simply depreciate in value. 3 or 6 months, you're probably going to want to throw it in the trash, or it's just going to sit on the shelf or sit in a closet. You get the idea. Next, boys and young men should understand. This is very, very critical. I can't emphasize this enough. They need to understand from the very beginning, they are special. This is so important in today's world. Too many boys, too many men are seeing this crap on television or in the modern media about how stupid men are and how ignorant we are, and they're reading these horrible articles and, just that how much superior and smarter women are. I am done with it. This has really hit a raw nerve for me. And I can tell you, men, again, because I've traveled so much and because I've lived overseas for years cumulatively, this is unique to the Western culture. I can assure you, men, you get outside the West, you don't see this level of depravity and decline. I can tell you for a fact you don't see it. Again, you need to emphasize to your young boy, to a young man that you might know, that he is standing on the shoulders of giants. And when he looks around him and he feels great to all the material progress and he understands how progressed society and world has become, not just over the past 1,000 years, but how about over the past 100 years, 150 years ago when no one had electricity, etc. He can feel proud because he can be a difference maker in his own life. He just needs to find his specific talents and gifts. Yes, he has. I can virtually guarantee you that young boy, that young man, it might be yourself, you have some sort of singular talent gift that makes you stand out. And yes, it might take you a while to figure out what it is, but you can quickly determine the ones that don't work. You'll quickly know those things that you aren't good at. There's a lot of things that I am very, very poor at. I am extremely non-mechanically inclined. I can barely turn a screwdriver, but there are a few things that I can do very, very well that come very naturally to me. And again, it will take you possibly years to figure this out, but the sooner you figure it out, the greater your life can be, because the better that you can bring it forward and start making money using that talent, that unique gift that you can share with the rest of us. Men, again, I emphasize, happy Father's Day to you. If you found this useful, hit the like button. As always, John Galt out.